Me a ghost story that sounds completely unbelievable but is entirely true. I'll go first.
This is a story I swear I would never tell or talk about again, but my mom really wants me to tell it, so here we go. When I was in 5th grade, a new girl came to our school, and I didn't know her at all, but my mom and dad knew her mom and dad. They wanted me to hang out with her. Well, she was in 6th grade. She was a year older than me, and she had 2 younger sisters, and she was there 2 weeks or something like that, and they set up a slumber party sleepover thing or whatever. I get over to her house, but first let me add, okay, her house was out in the middle of nowhere, and it was a log cabin that her dad had built, and it was this 2-story lofty type cabin thing, and her parents were upstairs, but her dad had made in the girls' room built-in bunk beds in the wall, so they were 3 high, right? And the little sister was going to sleep in the floor, and I was going to sleep in the middle, right? So you had to climb the ladder on the outside of the beds and then climb into the bed, which I thought was cool. I was fine with it. But immediately when I got to the house that day, it was heavy, and it kind of felt like something was like the air was thick or something. So she kept acting weird the whole time that I was there, and she would look to the left and right and back and forth, and I'm like, what are you looking at? And she's like, oh, nothing. And then the little sister goes, she sees this woman. Ghosts weren't new to me, but I knew this didn't feel like a ghost. It felt like something else. I would see this dark shadow show up and then go away, and then around the corner I saw these fingers come around the edge and then go like this, around the door frame, but they weren't regular fingers. They were these really elongated black, and the nails weren't pointy. They were longer, but they looked like they had been digging in something. They were a brown dirt. This was scary, whatever it was, right? So I'm already planning my escape. I'm already okay, I'm gonna wait till bedtime, and I'm gonna call my mom, and I'm gonna say I'm sick or something, so she has to come and get me. We were out there, like I said, in the middle of nowhere, and then her dad was like, oh man, the phones are messed up again, and he comes in for dinner, and I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean the phones are messed up? So this was 91, 92, I guess, something like that. And he's like, yeah, they get down sometimes. And I'm like, well, what if I need to go home? And he said, well, I'll take you home. It's fine. It's fine if you need to go home. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm stuck out here, right? I'm not going to be hey, I need you to take me home, because my dad would have ripped me a new one. Y'all know that he was mean, and he would have been so mad if I would have made this guy bring me home for nothing, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to stay here. Well, that night we go to get into bed, and she has jeans on. And I'm like, why are you sleeping in jeans? And she said, because I can't feel her scratch my legs in jeans. I'm like, Phil, who? What do you mean? Who? The little sister goes, the woman, the girl that she sees, scratches her legs at night. And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God, what do you mean? Well, is she going to try to scratch my legs? And she said, no, because you're in the middle bunk, she only gets mine. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, right? You've got to be kidding me. Well, we play games, we do whatever, and the whole time I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to see this woman. I've already seen her hands. What am I going to do? And climb up, we go to get in bed. I'm not tired at all, not at all. And all I can think about is this woman, right? Why is my friend in jeans to keep from feeling her hands? What is going to happen? And under the bottom bed, there was a nook thing, for storage or whatever. So something could get under that. And I'm like, oh, so I climb up this ladder thing. I'm getting sweaty just talking. I'm getting red just talking about it. That was horrible. I climb up the ladder. I get in the middle bunk. So I'm trapped. It felt like I was in a coffin or something, because the bed was above me and there was a bed below me. So I'm in this box in the wall, and I'm like, I can't. I was having a panic attack. I'm like, oh my God, I can't sleep in here. They had it total darkness, no noise, no anything but fear, right? The only thing I could hear was my heart slamming in my chest, and my ears were womp, 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 I'm like, oh my God. Then I hear the bottom bunk, creak, what's happening down there? And instead of just not looking, curiosity, got the best of me. So I lean over, y'all, and this thing is leaned over her. It's not in the bed with her, but it's like if it was kneeling beside her, and it's just going dragging down her jeans. It sounded like that, dragging down jeans. So I'm looking down at this thing, hearing this, and then I look at my friend, and my friend's just like that. She goes, so I freeze, right? So this goes on for a long time. It was me still peeking over the side, looking, and you hear and then she just stops, and then retreats and sucks back under that bottom bunk. Turns out they had a Ouija board in that nook underneath the bed that she had made, a homemade Ouija board underneath the bed. Horrible. Horrible. I have never been so scared in my life. Let's just say I made it through the night. First thing in the morning, I was like, I'm ready to go. Because my mom wasn't supposed to come get me till like noon. This was like 9 o'clock. And he's like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah, I don't feel too good. Can you just take me home? I didn't care at that point what my dad said or did. I wanted to get the hell out of that log cabin in the woods. So he takes me home. I tell my mom, and she's like, well, you don't have to go back again. I'm like, no, I'm never going back.
Hey, you've probably seen me a couple different times with a couple different stories under this stitch. And whether it's the mimic story or the Ouija board story, it's important that you go watch the Ouija board story because this is a continuation of what happened a month after we played with the Ouija board we made. And before I start, I just need to address something really quickly because I do have a lot of comments about Laura stories. We want more Laura. Yes, I will make more videos about the Laura experiences. I'll probably just jumble them into one because they are really freaky and I don't like talking about them. But I need y'all to understand that Laura and I have a very healthy boundary where we have a mutual understanding that I don't want whatever the hell is attached to her in my house anymore. And it's because of these experiences that I'm about to tell you. So, first story with my sister. She bursts in my room at 6 a.m. and essentially tells me, Elena, I had the weirdest dream last night. I have to talk to you about it because I am scared. 2 red flags in this scenario. My sister getting up at 6 a.m. because she usually sleeps until noon. And number 2, her being scared enough to talk to me about an experience that she had. And I immediately set her down and I'm like, yeah, we can talk about it. What's going on? And nothing weird has happened up until this point. This is like kind of the tip of the iceberg. And she says, I think I astral projected last night. And if you don't know what that is, just watch the Insidious movies. That's pretty much the whole premise of the movie. It's when you dream outside of your body, but you can see your body, if that makes sense. And as she's telling the story, I'm noticing that she is starting to shake from being scared, I can only assume. And she said, I just watched myself sleep. And I responded with like something along the lines of like, oh, that's cool. Like, what else happened? Because I could tell she was scared and I didn't want to scare her anymore. But she said, no, it wasn't cool because I wasn't the only one watching my body last night. And chills literally shot down my spine. And I said, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And she said, pretty much verbatim, a tall, thin man was watching me sleep. And she used her hand, and I'm going to do it here. She did this, like he was standing like this over her bed. And I said, well, did he do anything? Like, what, like, was that it? Y'all were just watching your body? And she said no. When he realized I was watching him watch my body, I woke up. And it's important to note that we have 2 dogs. One of them sleeps with my sister a lot. His name is Bubba. He's a very docile Boston Terrier. He does not bark unless he is, number 1, provoked, like we tell him to speak, or he is scared. And he woke up short of foaming at the frickin' mouth. He was barking, growling, gristle up, teeth showing, growling at the corner of my sister's room right after she woke up. And that's when I told her about the Ouija board experience and what Laura and I had done, and we correlated the 2 together. We just grouped them together. The following week, my sister had left to go spend the night at her friend's house, and my parents were in Colorado, so I was home alone. And I am not one to walk in the dark ever. Like, I am one of those people that strategically turns on lights, so I always have light before I get to my destination. But this night I was feeling brave and I was walking in the dark, and the only thing that was lighting up the basement was the door to my room. And it was because it was open, like the doorway of light. My dogs were already in my room, ready to go to sleep. And it's important to understand the layout of my basement. I should just make a video of like the layout of my basement so y'all can better understand this, but the bar area is flush with my door. So someone could be standing there like cooking things and I could see them right before I go into my bedroom. And I'm about 2 or 3 steps in the dark. I'm feeling good because I'm like, hey, I walked in the dark today. 2 or 3 steps away and I hear, hey. Just like that. Hey, like a little girl. jumped into my room, shut the door behind me, barricaded myself in my door or in my bedroom until my sister came home the next morning. I was like 15 years old at the time, and that was the very first experience I've ever had with anything auditory, and it scared me shitless. And the third experience, the third story, is not really a story, it's just the feeling that followed playing with this Ouija board. I never felt alone in my room. I always felt like there was someone watching me from outside my window or standing in my closet. And I had to close the door, so the door was always closed, but every time I open it, I half expected to see someone there. That is how much I felt this presence in my house. And I am one to believe in divine timing, because around the same time, my best friend started taking me to youth group. And which means I started praying out of habit. I wasn't praying out of fear, because at this point of my life, things like that started becoming so normal that it didn't scare me anymore. Aside from those two things, hearing footsteps, seeing things out of the corner of my eye, those were normal things at that point, because it had been happening for about a month. After I prayed or started praying, it happened, or it stopped happening after about a month. And nothing since then has happened in my home unprovoked the same ways as it did when Laura and I messed with the Ouija board. But that doesn't mean I don't have any badass ghost stories. I have experienced things since then. It's just nothing has been as prominent or as horrifying, in my opinion, other than when I got into a car accident. Other than that, nothing has been that scary or affected that many people in my life. And I am reading through a lot of your comments, if not all of them, and it amazes me not only the people who connect to my stories, but the crazy people who are like, you are so lucky that that happened to you. I tried summoning demons with my Ouija board and nothing happened, blah, blah, blah. And I just really want an experience like that. No, you don't. No, you don't. I cannot tell you enough. Just because you haven't experienced it doesn't mean that stuff doesn't exist. Please, for your own safety, don't do that. Like, there is a reason why I said at the end of it, like, that is why I haven't touched it. That's why I haven't done it. And if I could take it back, I 110% would. So, that's the end of this video.
Hi, my name is Katie. I have never done a TikTok before. Probably won't ever again. This trend is meant for me and my haunted house, which I'm sitting in right now, so don't get mad. Yeah, so my husband and I moved into this house, I want to say like 4 years ago. We just re-signed for the fourth time. And we had been here for like a week at most, and things had been like a little bit weird, but I've always like kind of had weird experiences in places that I've lived, so it wasn't anything strange or like out of the ordinary. And my husband has always been like a huge skeptic, so he was like, this is fine, whatever. This house is like over 100 years old. I think it was built like in the late 1800s, so you know, it comes with the territory. But the story that I want to tell is like the most insane thing that has ever happened to me. My husband and I were asleep in bed, and of course it was like 3:30 in the morning, and our doorbell started going off in sets of three, like ding, 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 and then it would be quiet for like an extended period of time, like 3 to 5 minutes. And the first time it went off, I was like, okay, maybe I dreamt that, and then it happened again. And so I like pushed my husband awake, and I was like, hey, did you hear that? And he was like, yeah, we're ignoring it. So it just like kept happening, and it started happening like more frequently, with like smaller amounts of time in between. So eventually I was like, I'm gonna go look. Like, we live in the city, maybe somebody is ringing it, they need help, whatever. Like, we're in a very populated area. I just kind of assumed that like it was a person. So we live on the first floor, and when you look out the window of our front door, you can see straight to the front because it's all glass. So I like peeked through the little slitted blinds, and there was nobody there. So I was like, okay, maybe they moved on to the next house, whatever. So I went back into the bedroom, and the second that I closed the door to the bedroom, it started going off again. And at this point, I was getting irritated because I was like, I want to go to bed. I want to be asleep. So I'll show you because it's hard to explain otherwise. Our window in the front room like looks directly out onto our porch, and the doorbell is like right around this corner right here. So like if somebody's ringing the doorbell, I should be able to see them if I open up this window. So I was getting irritated, and I was like, you know what, whatever. And I flung this curtain back, and the second that I did that, it started going off incessantly, like so, needless to say, we like disconnected our doorbell and have not connected it since. We've lived for 4 years without a doorbell. Yeah, so that's the craziest thing that's happened to me in this house. I have like, there have been other things that have happened. None of them that violent. I mean, that's not violent, but like crazy. Yeah, I did wake up to a man like standing over my bed once, a ghost man. So that's also a fun story. But yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.